Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots, bootlicker shells, dust slicers, peasants, vassals, meat sacks, conspiracy theorists. I'm Useful Idiot. Welcome. First of all, I want to state right off the bat that I don't deal with conspiracy theories. I deal with conspiracy facts. And let's talk about this term, conspiracy theorists. Of course, it becomes relevant, and I wanted to do something about this topic, and the opportunity presented itself. This article about how the term conspiracy theorist was coined in April 1967 by the CIA. That makes a lot of sense. And the fact that now an entire argument can be shut down, or even asking questions can be shut down by labeling someone a conspiracy theorist. And I find that all the more relevant and ironic, of course, because of videos that I do all the time, including recent ones. One I just did of Hillary Clinton talking about the real reasons why NATO invaded Libya. So there's another conspiracy theory that turned out to be fact. And then the conspiracy theory that the U.S. created ISIS seems to be also substantiated. So all these conspiracy theories that turn out to be true, of course, undermine this narrative by the CIA. But let's get down to this. This article that was, or paper that was revealed in 1976 showed that the CIA coined the term in April of 1967 and recommended methods for discrediting such theories. And so we already have in place in 1967 those psychological operations by clandestine services to address this conspiracy theorist phenomena. And of course, at the time, a lot of the conspiracy phenomenon they were worried about was conspiracy theories about the JFK assassination, which now is a cottage industry, and the CIA and its members probably continually make money off the industry around the conspiracy theories about the JFK assassination. But so that has a lot to do with it. But there's a lot of other forces in play at the time. A good example is this book, None Dare Call It Conspiracy, by Gary Allen. And this is first edition is 1972, so 5 years after the CIA coined this term, this book is kind of a bestseller. In fact, that's my introduction to a lot of these ideas about the Council of Foreign Relations and the Bilateral Commission and the Rockefellers and all these conspiracy ideas. My dad actually gave me that book, and so it opened my eyes at a fairly young age to a lot of this stuff, and so I was ready for it by the time the 70s rolled on. But so let's get back to this CIA thing. It says the trend of opinion is a matter of concern to the U.S. government, including CIA. So as usual, we have this paranoid government that has to be over concerned about what people are thinking. But of course, thinking is what's is going to be a threat to them when we continue getting that message. They wanted to inhibit the circulation of these ideas about conspiracy theories to other countries. So not only do they want to micromanage in the United States, they want to micromanage opinions and ideas around the world. And they go on to recommend not discussing these issues where they are not already taking place. So the CIA recommends that you don't bring these up. You only address these conspiracy theories so they don't want any extra publicity brought on by inadvertent discussion by anti-conspiracy theory people, I guess. But anyway, the materials are interesting. It's thorough, and they talk about we have done as thorough investigation as possible. Charge critics that they have no foundation for their speculation, and that it only plays into the hands of the opposition, and point out deliberate propaganda used by these so-called conspiracy theorists. So CIA are very conscious of all these different cliched ways to address conspiracy theorists who bring up these questions, and they continue using these same methods, claiming that a thorough investigation has been done as possible, and that there's no foundation for these speculation, and the speculation only plays into the hands of the opposition. How many times have we heard that? And then, of course, pointing out that it's deliberate propaganda, which is hilarious considering everybody is involved in a war of propaganda. And here's the CIA outlining in their documents how to use propaganda to fight what they call deliberate propaganda. And they talk about employing this propaganda to battle critics, spelled out right in their own documents. So like I say, lambasting propaganda from somewhere else while acknowledging that all their techniques are used for propaganda. And in fact, they recommend using book reviews and feature articles in the media to counter these so-called conspiracy theorists and to battle this propaganda and to propagate their own propaganda. And so once again, we see this reference to the fact that the CIA has access to media and can plant and encourage and support book reviews and feature articles that support the CIA worldview. And then the document goes on to talk about the ploy, critics that are wedded to theories before the evidence is. And these are, once again, outlined these series of charges that can be brought against people who supposedly are conspiracy theorists or who are asked the wrong questions. Critics are wedded to their theories before the evidence is in. These conspiracy theorists are politically motivated. These conspiracy theorists are financially motivated. These conspiracy theorists are hasty and inaccurate in their research, and these conspiracy theorists are infatuated with their own theories. And once again, we've seen these charges brought against people who ask legitimate questions time and time again, whether it's about foreign policies, whether it's about anti-Semitism, whether it's about botched investigations like the Warren Commission, etc. So another way they target people, once again, I always find this the most sinister because we have this stuff codified, and that's what I find chilling about this entire CIA report, basically outlining and codifying how to malign people who ask questions and how to marginalize them and use these same techniques over and over again. And then it becomes all the more chilling when we see these very techniques used over and over and over again, not only by the intelligence agencies and the government, but also by the media, who are also in on this. And so again, this supports the idea that the CIA and their methodologies and requirements have infiltrated into the media, because we see all these same techniques used time and time again in the media for decades. And here, a good example of this is this next list, where they talk about their ways to deflect discussions of conspiracy theories, charge that there are no significant new evidence has emerged, to say that critics overvalue some and ignore other details and rely on witnesses who are inherently suspect. Talk about conspiracies on a large scale would be impossible to conceal, and to critics who are enticed by intellectual pride. They maintain these conspiracy theories out of intellectual pride. Let me go back to the other one, though. Conspiracy on a large scale would be impossible to conceal, and that's just not true. As we know, not all the participants need to be aware, and the head of the snake is the only one required to know most of the plan. And in fact, one could argue that even the people at the head of a lot of these conspiratorial ideas are not necessarily privy to all the pictures to the puzzle. A good example of that is the entire all the people who were at economic positions and market positions when the 9/11 attacks happened. So they had pre-knowledge and all these different levels of different people involved cashing in on their pre-knowledge of these events in different ways, whether it's political ideologues or people in the government and the political agendas and geopolitical agendas they wanted to achieve, or just players who are involved in the situation who wanted to make money. So anyway, it is not hard to hide conspiracies on a large scale, and there's more evidence for that. Example is the 130,000 people worked on the Manhattan Project. 130,000 people worked on the Manhattan Project, and yet they were able to keep that under wraps for decades. So anyway, let's get back to pressures created by irresponsible criticism. So a lot of times they just charge irresponsible criticism, and that's enough to shoot down supposed conspiracy theories. Of course, vague accusations can be explained away, and they even use the fact that there's all these suspicious deaths, for example, after the Kennedy assassination, and those kind of vague accusations can be explained away. And the fact that they know this ahead of time, the CIA, and codify it, spell it out, makes us realize too that they know that the fact that a lot of mysterious deaths, of which they could be responsible for, can be explained away easily, and they can just charge that they're vague, and therefore they are comfortable in the fact that in a lot of these situations, including post 9/11 events, a lot of these witnesses end up dead mysteriously, and they can just blow it off. So anyway, one of the funny thing is apparently that hundreds of thousands of court cases involve the term conspiracy, so it's not that uncommon. And in fact, in our own time, we see a Bernie Madoff scheme, a known conspiracy that turned out to be proven and is a reality, and it was in the court system. And Enron is another conspiracy. So we see these all the time. So that's one of the things we have to realize, is that in this atmosphere of charging about conspiracy theories, I mean, how many different conspiracies turned out to be true? The Gulf of Tonkin was a conspiracy that turned out to be true. The Tuskegee syphilis experiments was a conspiracy that turned out to be true. Project MK Ultra was a conspiracy that turned out to be true. Operation Northwoods, CIA drug trafficking in Los Angeles. Operation Mockingbird, CONTELPRO, Operation Snow White, and behind the scenes corporate meetings not open to the public and only open to government and corporate interests, like the TPP, and then of course massive spying surveillance on a massive scale, a global scale, dragging in almost every citizen on the globe. These are all conspiracy theories, of course, that turned out to be true, and it goes on. There's plenty more, particularly because if you look at a list of all the conspiracies that involved lots and lots of people, and yet these conspiracies were able to not only be buried in their time, but continue to be buried. Like I say, the 130,000 people that worked on the Manhattan Project, all the people involved in the 1933 corporate coup in the U.S., which is a well-documented event. 7 of 8 banking centers went bankrupt in the 1980s, and yet they were able to keep that quiet for decades. Every single financial system in the world has been manipulated for the better part of the last 100 years, and they've been able to keep these conspiracies silent. Constant nuclear accidents that are kept silent during their time, and all these pre-war plans through history, including the pre-plans for the war in Iraq. All these conspiracies are able to be buried, and so we have a long history of conspiracy theories that have come to be true, and yet this technique of maligning people who talk about conspiracy theories continues to work. I want to note too that, as I mentioned so many times before, the sheeple, they don't really need shepherds anymore, because the handlers and the shepherds have trained the sheeple to herd themselves, and therefore we have other citizens who even laugh and can just bring up the term conspiracy theorist to malign any ideas you might have, or any questions you might ask, or any outrageous ideas that you may look at. And of course, my bottom line is I don't deal in conspiracy theories. I deal in conspiracy facts, and I just look at these events and look at the facts and try and figure it out for myself. Because as we know, you can start with the fact that nothing is ever what it seems, and there's multiple agendas at play, and the one on the surface is the obvious one is probably going to be the decoy. So anyway, there it is. The term conspiracy theorist. All you have to do is even bring it up, and all of a sudden, people in the room start snickering. So the CIA's work has been done well, but nonetheless, they continue to turn out to be true. They continue to haunt us, and people should continue asking questions. I'm a useful idiot. Don't you be one too.